Good day, and thank you for tuning in and listening to our podcasts. I do my best to invite guests and open up discussions and topics that matters to expats, from relocation to their personal experiences of living and working in the Czech Republic. And today, I'm honored to welcome the CEO of Twisto, Nemika Nemevse. Nemika, welcome, and thank you very much for your time.
Uh, Hello, Yana. Thanks for inviting. Thanks for your time.
Can you tell us a bit about your personal and professional journey? It's quite interesting. How did you get from working in Turkey to the UK to becoming CEO of Twisto in the Czech Republic?
Okay, I was born in Turkey, in a city in southern part of Turkey, and then I went to Ankara, the capital for university education. I was educated in international relations, but during a summer internship, I figured out my passion for banking, and then I moved to Istanbul to work for a corporate bank, and I lived in Istanbul for 21 years and did corporate banking in both local and international banks. And lots of good deals, managed really high skilled teams, etc. But then, when I was 43, like 6 years ago, I made a bold
Mhm,
move and I decided to relocate myself to London. My sister was already living here and I was visiting her very frequently.
mhm.
But the thing I loved about London was that it's a very international city and it's the heart of finance indeed. So lots of events, lots of innovations, lots of things going on. So as I said, I made a bold move and decided to relocate myself to London. And 6 years ago, I came here. Then I started working for Param. And from corporate banking, I jumped into the world of digital payments and fintech, which was quite a dynamic and very exciting area. And like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Param acquired Twisto, and I was
Mhm.
a part of that, due diligence team, etc. And 2 years ago, when there was a need for a CEO, I was introduced the opportunity by the investors and the shareholder, which I accepted a lot because it was a big challenge and it was a very
Yes.
exciting one. And since then, I'm currently split between London and Prague. Half of my time is in London, half of my time is in Prague, and I'm responsible for both Twisto in Czech and Poland, but at the same time, Param's other European operations like UK and Netherlands. And by
Wow.
the way, I'm a mom. My son is 21 years old. He's a university student in UK. And in a nutshell, that's who I am.
Wow. That's amazing. Can you tell me where do you feel more like home? So is it, Czech Republic, UK, or is it still Turkey?
Yeah, I think I can say both London and Czech Republic. For
Uh-huh.
sure,
Uh-huh.
Istanbul and Turkey is, home.
Yes,
But I
yes.
think I really got very used to living in UK for 6 years. But at the same time, I really feel a part of Prague and the team in the last 2 years. So I cannot choose one of them. I think 50-50. Both are like feel like home, really.
Okay. And before you accepted or you started, better say, maybe you started your role here in the Czech Republic, what were your biggest hopes or maybe concerns before the move? Did you have any?
Sure. First of all, when relocating from Turkey to London,
To London.
I had also the same concerns because, and I'm not too young. I mean, I'm not old, but 43 years old is a big move uh, to start living in a country. So it comes with the package. It is a new learning phase for you. You learn lots of new things, but at the same time, it's also a challenge. You need to understand the country's dynamics, the culture, the tax system, the health system, etc. So the same happened for me for when the opportunity arose for Prague. Okay, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the easiest things for me was that I know English, so I know the language in the country in UK, but it's
Yes.
not the same. And I believe that the language has really impact on the culture and getting adapted to a country. So that was a concern how soon I'm going to be adapted in terms of a personal life. But from the business perspective, I think the hope and the concerns were the same. Wishing to work with a team that we connect, that we trust each other and do great things. That was the hope because it's always a teamwork. But at the same time, that was the concern. How long it will take to come there. So the main thing was, I think, about the adoption, understanding the culture, and also adapting the team to our culture. These were the hopes and the concerns. The same thing indeed.
Uh-huh. And so now you can say better if you had to adapt somehow uh, your leadership style when you started to work in UK and also in Czech Republic. How you did it?
Mm. Well, first of all, I think you need to understand and read a little bit. I mean, if you're a numbers person, you may look at the statistics. There is something you can learn
Yes.
about that culture, about that country. I'm an international relations graduate, so history was the most important part for me.
Uh-huh.
So before, joining to Twisto, when the opportunity was there, I started trying to understand the history because it sheds a light to today.
Mm-hmm.
Just for example, to give an example, the Turkish people, we were under Ottoman rule for 600 years, ruling 3 continents, a big land
Yes.
span. We lost the war, we lost our lands, but we started from the scratch. We won independence war and we built everything
Yes.
starting from zero. So
Uh-huh.
that may give an idea about how challenges we accept, how resilient we are, how we're not afraid to start over and over again. So, things change in, for example, UK and Czech. There are reasons, but if you understand the history, you can understand a little bit about today as well. So that's where I started, trying to understand the dynamics. And
Uh-huh.
so that gave an understanding indeed, and I started experiencing it also. For example, I'm a very, to be honest, impatient person. I want, when there is something in my mind, I want to execute it immediately.
Uh-huh.
But I figured out that that's not the case in UK, but that is not the case in Czech Republic.
Uh-huh.
You have to be direct and you have to explain what is in your mind, but you need to allow more time for the people to buy it in, and you spend more time in explaining what is in your mind. Only one meeting is not enough. So you need to see that people are buying in it, because if the team doesn't buy it, they don't, just simply do not execute it. So I started learning a little bit, but I also started experiencing, observing, and trying to understand the needs. For example, we're having a meeting, I'm coming up with an idea. Nobody says anything because Czech people are a little bit reserved,
Silent, right? Mm-hmm.
do not silent and do not like talking in public. And,
Yes.
I think everything is okay and we will start executing or
Uh-huh.
implementing. But then nothing happens. Then I started to think, okay, what went wrong here? Then digging and trying to encourage and open and transparent culture within the company, I figured out
Mm-hmm.
that there are things I can do better, like explaining more, spending more time in understanding, explaining what we are willing to do, giving more time for people, encouraging them to ask their questions, etc. So you adapt. It's not I'm not as impatient as I used to be, but I will say I think we met somewhere in between, and
Uh-huh.
we are not now discussing a lot before implementation. So I think we are somewhere in between. Such things really, make you understand the dynamics, and you need to adapt. And for adapting, you need to observe, you need to listen, you need to understand, and you need to get feedback. Otherwise, you
Mm-hmm.
can move nowhere. So there are
Yeah.
differences, there are similarities, but for sure, by listening, being close to the team, reading, analyzing, I think I'm still, it's an ongoing process. I cannot say
Uh-huh.
I did it. I'm still learning
Mm-hmm.
it. But I think I get a big support from the team in telling me, Nemika, you're running too fast. You need to slow down. You
Uh-huh.
need to prioritize. You need to do that. We need to analyze more, etc. So I think it's important to have open relation with your team,
Mm-hmm.
getting feedback, not only getting, but acting based on those feedbacks.
And on the beginning, before you started, did you have any support or did you have any preparation before you start to work in Czech Republic? So sometimes the companies are organizing some help or mentoring to expats or something like that. Did you have something?
No, I didn't have it this way, but I
Mm-hmm.
was, involved in the due diligence process. So I had the
Mm-hmm.
time to meet with the
Yeah.
team to
Mm-hmm.
understand the numbers, etc. But then before becoming the CEO, I was assigned for two specific tasks: improving the financials of the company and working on new products that we already do in Turkey, but doing it in a European way. So I had two tasks, and I really spent plenty of time with the team in Prague. So that was my indeed learning curve. And at the same time, I talked to lots of expats, my
Mm-hmm.
friends from Turkey, or new people, not only Turkish but from other countries, had the chance to, just reached out on LinkedIn,
Uh-huh.
saying that, I would like to understand a little bit more how you're managing it, etc. So these were, and I gathered all the feedbacks. But for sure, each and every company has its own dynamics as well. So
Yes.
one doesn't fit all. And I'm against like sentences like Czechs are like this, Czechs are not like this, because not everyone is the same. But all
True.
I
Mm-hmm.
listened gave me some, feeling or understanding. But
Uh-huh.
that was how I, spending time before being the CEO on, specific tasks, being in Prague, talking to other expats, reading about the history, those all helped me a lot before the role indeed.
Is there something specific what you learn from the history, and you can see it in the real, or nowadays in the real life? So you can say, "Oh, that's true. Czech are something like that."
I can say, for example, being maybe a small country in terms of population and
Mm-hmm.
being a landlocked country, I don't think it was the wise idea to fight as loudly as, in the wars. So what
Uh-huh.
I observe is that Czechs, were under Habsburg, and then, there was a 2 decades of
Mm-hmm.
empire,
Yes.
republic, and then the
Yeah.
German invasion, Soviet invasion. What I see is it was uh, not a big loud fight and war, but Czechs preferred to focus on their language, literature, arts, and try to connect and resist by value, by protecting their values.
Uh-huh.
So if you can think it this way, I'm adopting it. Okay, I'm now coming as a foreigner with a new idea, just dropping it. There may be some hesitation to accept it. There may be some protection to values. So, in order not to accept, not to come up with time losses, I need to explain it in a way that is in the good of the company. So, I
Mm-hmm.
think that not being too loud, being a little bit reserved,
Mm-hmm.
and not publicly protesting or objecting things. I
Uh-huh.
think these are a little bit similar. That
Uh-huh.
some
Uh-huh.
points I can see in the history at a bigger level. I don't know
Uh-huh.
if
Uh-huh.
I'm wrong or right. I'm not the expert of it, but this is how I understand it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Great, thank you. And do you remember something? What was the most surprising or most challenging part of the relocation? The time when you come to the Czech Republic, and maybe it does not need to be necessarily professional only, but maybe also something from your personal life. Was there something like that?
Yeah, I think first maybe I can say more the positive sides, because I lived in Istanbul, which is almost 20 million people, lots of
Yes.
traffic jam, etc. And then moved to London. I think it's a very convenient city for me with 8 million population.
Yes.
And I think Prague is a very nice city. I mean, really
Mm-hmm.
beautiful city. But at the same time, it's a compact city, very convenient. It's easy to live. So I think that is a very big positive. You can understand and you can learn the city easily. Not only the touristic places, but great parks. There are lots of things that you can spend time, just collect mushrooms, etc. All those. You have lots of things to do, sports.
Uh-huh.
So you can really enjoy the life in Prague. I think the biggest challenge is the language itself. As I
Mm-hmm.
said, it was very easy for me to adapt to UK and understand the laws, rules here, because I'm reading in their own native language.
Mm-hmm.
So the Czech language is a little bit difficult one, and it's not so easy for everyone to learn. And on top of it, if you want to understand certain laws or rules, what you have to do, you need to read it from a translator,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
translated pages, and it does not always
Yeah.
the same sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
think the difficulty was mainly with the difficulty is mainly the language, but other than that, education system, the medical system, etc. Lots of things are very similar when you look into the other European countries. So that wasn't,
Hmm.
if I relocated directly from Istanbul to Prague, that would be a challenge for me. But that 6 years experience in UK
In UK.
helped me a lot. That is mainly about the, I think, the uh, personal side of it, and it's not
Uh-huh.
a, I mean, it's not a big challenge or a big problem because most of the people speak English, and they tell me, the people who relocated long ago say that it was not like that 10 to 15 years ago. People were
True.
not
Hmm.
speaking that much English.
English.
Service sector was totally different. So lots of things have improved in the recent years, as I understand. So it's not a big deal. It's not a big challenge. And in terms of, business, the biggest challenge was, as I said, more reserved people. It takes longer time for people to trust in you, longer analysis periods, etc. On the contrary, for example, we have a saying in Turkish: we generally do something and then learn it after we do it.
Yes.
That is the opposite of the Czech culture. You try to oversee all the risks, try to come up with mitigations, etc. But I think now we are very much balanced. It's not like the
Hmm.
Turkish way of doing it. Let's do it, but it's not like waiting for months to execute it. So I think communication solves lots of things. But I cannot say this is the biggest challenge, and I had very
Uh-huh.
difficulty
Uh-huh.
in overcoming it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
No,
people are
perfect.
positive and you can fix it somehow, and also trying to help you.
Yeah. You mentioned that the language was the most well, difficult thing. Uh, how about the Czech language? Did you try to learn a bit, or it's something it's too big challenge maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't take any courses, but I
Uh-huh.
watched a little bit, YouTube videos, etc. But at the end of the day, I'm still around, Dobry Dan and Nazdravi, so very very limited things. I think the grammar structure is also difficult, but at least
Hmm.
I used to say, for example, Skoda. I learned to say Skoda, so at least I can pronounce the words correctly, at least.
Uh-huh.
But
Uh-huh.
for example, in at the beginning, it was confusing me a lot. In one document I am Nemiko, in another one I'm Nemiki, Nemika. So even that
It's
is
confusing.
confusing. I don't think I will have that courage to start learning it, but
Uh-huh.
just trying to learn a couple of words at least to ease the communication. But
Yeah.
it is a
I
difficult language, yeah.
It is. It is definitely a very difficult language. But I have to say that we know that, and if we can see that someone try to do his best and use some language or some words in conversation, we really value it. So we like
Yeah,
it, of
I know
course.
that. I know that, yeah.
What advice would you give to some C-level executive or manager who is about to relocate to the Czech Republic? Is there some advice you can share?
I think, say, again, it changes from maybe company to company, but I
Mhm.
don't think it's wise to try to win over people. It doesn't happen overnight. I mean, you need to give yourself and you need to give the team a time to establish that trust. You need to establish the trust. That is, something universal, but that is also very valid for the Czech people.
Mhm.
And once you have that trust established, open communication, everything moves very smoothly. But if you just come and act as if I know everything best, and I'm going to change lots of things here, and we're going to do that without planning, it is highly likely that you're going to be rejected or people will be hesitant to cooperate with you. So I think the greatest advice in terms of business can be, just observe, listen, understand, give yourself and the team a time and establish the trust, then start acting and always try to get the feedback of the team on your ideas or on your plans, because sometimes I think, knowing it from Turkey or UK, I'm thinking a product idea is the best. And but then the team comes and says, Nemika, that may not fly in Czech Republic because of that. So local dynamics are different. And
Mhm.
until you get to learn it, you really need to listen to your team and get it. It's not like, okay, you say, but I don't hear. You need to listen and you need to hear. But establishing trust takes time. So
Hmm.
you need to give that time to you and your team, definitely.
I wanted to ask two things. One is related with trust, and the other one was with the topic you mentioned, like giving or providing the feedback. So first, I will start with the trust. If you can give us some tips how to build the trust with the Czech colleagues.
I think one of the things is that you need to be like yourself. You shouldn't be
Hmm.
pretending. I mean, these are also universal in,
Yeah.
many cultures is the same. But I think people are wise and smart enough to understand if you're real or not. So if you're saying something, but if you're not believing it, or if you're not acting like yourself, I think that is the greatest damage on your, trustworthiness. You need to lead by example. If you're saying something, you should also act that way. You need to be open. For sure, there are sometimes some confidential things that you cannot tell it all over the place
Yes.
all at once, but you can always communicate it. Okay, there are confidential things. I may not be able to share it with you now, but this is where we're heading. This is what we need to do, or this is what it is. You need to be real. You need to be open. You need to be honest. And because people understand it, and that that this is very common. Everyone is using it, authenticity, but I think it really pays.
Hmm.
The biggest thing I think in establishing trust is two things: being real, being honest, but at the same time listening to people and making sure that you do not just listen, you also hear them. So I think with this you can establish the trust,
Hmm.
and that may be the especially very difficult for a person like an impatient person like me,
Yes.
but you need to do it somehow.
And how about the feedback? Because I know Czech are a little bit reserved, and we actually don't like to openly say something. We don't like something we don't like, and we have a special way how we do that. If we don't like something, we try to turn it into a little bit like sarcastic humor.
Yes,
So we don't complain in open way, but we
yes.
are start to make it our own way. So how about your experience? And you mentioned that you are asking for a feedback for yourself. So how does it work for you?
Yeah, I think I accepted that people will not talk openly, in
Uh-huh.
meetings, because it's not maybe about me, but it's maybe they do not feel always comfortable, even though you try to build an environment that everyone will feel comfortable. You cannot achieve it all the time, for everyone. So what I'm trying to do is asking for one-on-one feedbacks. So
Hmm.
okay, I can understand a little bit from people's gestures, mimics,
Hmm.
how they are, into the meeting, if they from their looks, and then I try to capture it and then go one by one and ask, okay, can you share your feedback with me? How did it go? You seemed like that you didn't like the idea. Can you share more about this? Is about business, but on personal level, it was at the beginning, especially. I didn't ask for feedback. I asked for help. Indeed,
Hmm.
I said,
Ah,
"Okay,
okay.
guys, I'm new here. I'm new in the town, and
A good
we
way.
have tasks to do, and I don't know. I may make some mistakes which I do not want to make. So please openly share your feedbacks with me. For example, we have all hands, and really people at the beginning very openly and friendly came and said, Nemika, you said it, but it would be better if you told it this way. It was
Uh-huh.
misunderstood. So, and when people see that you are hearing them and you're acting accordingly, then they are much more willing to give you feedback. So I'm not. Some people do it in publicly,
Hmm.
openly, but I do not expect people to do it. I accepted it at least, but at least for the management team, I go and ask one by one and try together, and sometimes dig it a little bit, because still they may not be saying it directly. Which I'm a very direct person, and I'm looking forward to hearing direct feedback. So
Hmm.
they may sometimes still try to be polite, and
Uh-huh.
I'm saying, okay, come, tell. I need to do it better. So I think communication is the most important part, not
Hmm.
being arrogant, not thinking you know everything, asking for help, or, saying, I have certain improvement areas. Can you help me with that? So I think these pay. This
That's a
helped
great
me a lot.
way. Yeah, I think it's great because to ask for help sounds for us, for Czech, way better
Yeah,
than
yeah,
ask someone for open feedback. So tell me,
yeah.
what do you think about me, about my work?
Yes,
Speaking about the communication, you mentioned that many times. How would you describe Czech communication style for someone, let's say, for someone who until now don't have the experience?
very reserved, very
Okay.
private, I may say. So, just for like a comparison, in Turkey, it's very common to ask private questions. Even to that is like we think this is the correct way of communicating. So, for example, I worked for international banks when there was an expat relocated to Turkey. It is polite to ask, did you bring your family? Are you married? Do you have kids? Where do you live? What do you do? Etc. So that is very common. And at that time, I worked for Dutch banks. Dutch people are also reserved. So I could understand, they were a little bit surprised. But that is very common. I mean, we meet you, and I can directly ask you, do you have any kids? Do you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, etc.? So that is like the Turkish culture.
Uh-huh.
I learned a little bit in British culture. British people
Hmm.
are also
Yes.
reserved and more distant. So I was a little bit adaptive to that. Now
Hmm.
currently I see, after a while and, after a couple of pivot, it may be more easy to,
Yes.
talk about private life, definitely. But I think we need to respect it as a foreigners, coming to the country. But I think very honest indeed. But it starts with being reserved and distant. As again, if you can establish that trust, it turns into a, very honest and very long-term relation. But you need to respect the boundaries, and you
Hmm.
shouldn't go unless the other person wants to share. You shouldn't step into the private life, etc. That is how my observation is the correct
Hmm.
way of handling it.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, perfect. And would you wish to know on day one? So you came here, and now after many years, you can look back and you can say, "Whoa, if I would know this, if I would know that." So is there something what you wish to know?
Yeah, that thing, we're all talking. The very first day, I wish someone would have say, Nemika, do not be so fast, and just try to give yourself and the team a time. So that is something I discovered myself. I think that would definitely help me a little bit
Hmm.
more. I mean, it didn't. It was an experience, so it's nothing bad. I mean, all experiences are very
Yes.
valuable, but maybe I could, manage my own expectations in a better way because, I was thinking, okay, why is the team not working? In the meeting, we said yes, but they're not executing. What is wrong with them? Etc. Instead of thinking this, I would know that they didn't yet buy the idea. So I think that would help me a little bit more. But this is, I think, really, you should be more patient. You should be more planned and structured. If you're doing business in Czech, you definitely need to push a little bit, but that push and being demanding should come after a while, not day one. So these are the things, I wish I
Uh-huh.
knew at the beginning, but I learned it myself with experience with the help of the team. So, but I can say those.
No, that's great. It's very valuable, I'm sure.
And
And
some
mhm.
people, if I knew that, ice hockey is so important, and skiing is a very important part of the culture, parks and collecting mushrooms, such things
Yes,
could help me in not going into the private area, but also, just start
to
talking
build.
about some,
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
small talk that would definitely
Yes.
help me in connecting with people easier.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And are you aware of any common, let's say, mistakes or misunderstanding which expats make? Or do you have any, let's say, advice how to avoid that? So, is something like that in your mind? Maybe not from your direct experience, but something you can see around yourself, the other expats around you?
Yeah, generally, my discussions with the other expats, is that the time is a little bit slow in Czech Republic, and
Mm-hmm.
work-life balance is a lot in the advantage of life. So
Uh-huh.
these are two things. Maybe the as the expats, we should manage our expectations. It's not like and that is also related with the economy. The unemployment rate is very low, and
Mm-hmm.
people have that confidence. So if you can understand about those, you know how to push, where to push, or just manage your expectations. I think that can be because when you are assigned to a new country, the reason you are there is either to fix something or to make a growth. And you come up with lots of plans and with lots of passion. But nothing is done alone. You need your team. And for the team, you should really establish a very good relation. And so, to be able to do that, you need to understand you can speed up certain things, but you really need to understand to avoid mistakes that, Czech people are more, again, reserved, but they're very much caring about their work life balance in favor of life, etc.
Mm-hmm.
If you can understand those, then you can find better solutions to manage the team and to be successful.
Okay, thank you. That's for me. It's really, really interesting. But on the other hand, I have to say, you are saying the truth. That's true. I'm just surprised that you can see it also.
Yeah, and even though think I'm coming from a culture in Turkey, it's very much in the favor of work. I mean, work-life balance is because the main difference. I really spent lots of time on thinking about it, but Turkey is a developing country. A big population, young people, many of them university graduates. Unemployment rate is high. So in the work life, you really need to work harder than your peers. You really need to be creative, a solution maker. You have to create solutions, etc. So that makes you a very competitive and resilient person, but you
Mm-hmm.
work,
Mm-hmm.
work, work. Now this is changing a little bit with the new generations, but I'm an X
Mm-hmm.
generation, and that was like for us like this. Many of the times work prioritize family, your friends, etc. And from that, I came to a culture in UK. It's much more well balanced. Business is business, but you don't, sacrifice from your personal life. But what
Mm-hmm.
I see in Czech Republic is a little bit, as I said, in favor of life. So it was very difficult for me to understand it at the beginning, but it was good that I had a buffer like UK in between Turkey and Czech Republic.
I'm just wondering because some time ago, I saw some data how many foreigners from which country are coming to the Czech Republic. And I was surprised that Turkey was one of the top countries. Uh, and I was wondering why. Because from my perspective, the language is not common at all. And also, like environment is far different. So do you have any idea why is Czech
Yeah,
Republic so interesting for
and
someone from Turkey?
yeah, it is surprising for me as well because I know that there are not many Turkish investments in the Czech Republic.
Mm-hmm.
I think our investment is the biggest one. So, I'm also in touch with our ambassador, the former one. So we discuss
Mm-hmm.
all about it and how we can support the Turkish community to adapt to the life in Czech
Mm-hmm.
business
Mm-hmm.
and also communication with the people. So I wasn't aware that there are lots of expats or foreigners coming. The one of the things maybe if it's more like sole traders, self entrepreneurs,
Okay.
many young
Mm-hmm.
people, after graduating from the university, is willing to have an experience outside of Turkey, and
Mm-hmm.
the visas are a little bit challenging. So maybe a Czech program for blue card, etc., for
Yes.
certain industries can be easier. That's why maybe Turkish people are coming. That may be related mainly with the ease of visa. I do not know. I'm just talking on
Yeah,
top
yeah,
of
yeah,
my
yeah, yeah,
head.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
You are
yeah,
right, actually. It was blue card, so
yeah.
it will be really something like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there are lots of, developers, related with IT, and Czechia is a very good destination for it. That may be one of the reasons
Mm-hmm.
why Turkish people are preferring or
Yeah.
coming to Czech Republic.
Okay, interesting. Well, any favorite Czech traditions, food or places that have become part of your life? Is there something like that?
Yeah, I love the city as a whole. I mean, a very beautiful city, but
You mean
generally,
Prague?
yeah, Prague. But generally, I love, taking time as a local rather than a tourist. So I love the some hidden parks that not all the tourists know, but the locals go. Or for example, just walking from that hill towards the Charles Bridge, with the beautiful view, etc. I love such things. For sure, I go to the touristic places, especially if we have a guest from Turkey or UK. So you need to give that a touristic tour. But I
Hmm.
love it like a local. To be honest, from the cuisine perspective, I'm very lucky. I'm
Yeah.
Turkish, and it's very difficult to find many alternatives in other. It's the same in UK. I mean, UK is very rich, but it's generally, foreign cuisine. But I think the pivo beer is great, definitely. And there are lots of. I love the spirit of Christmas, even though the country is not very religious. Still, that
Hmm.
Christmas is
True.
great, especially in summer. All the pubs, the open spaces are full. After work, you go grab a beer and chat, etc. I love those things that relax and slow life in Prague. I really love those a lot.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice. And well, I think I asked all my questions I had prepared. And so I would like to, first of all, I would love to thank you for your time, which I really appreciate. And I believe you share with me a lot of information which will be valuable for the other expats who are coming, because I'm mostly in touch with managers coming to the Czech Republic, and they are asking me often on the beginning. Um, how is Czech culture? What should they expect? And even if I'm able to provide them some advices, it's definitely very much valuable to hear it from someone like you, who had your own experience as you have.
Yeah, as I say, I'm not an expert. I'm just sharing my observations.
Yes.
Maybe one addition, Yana, is that the country is a lot bureaucratic. I think it's going to change in time. That may
Hope.
come historically, but I think the way of doing business, if it is east, I mean, that is a policy, etc. Lots of things in place. I know it may
Hmm.
welcome more international, capital as well,
Capital. Hmm.
because. Czechia is in the middle of Europe. It is really
Yes.
logistically a great country. It's a very beautiful country. It's an EU country. The economics is good, so it can attract much more if this is required or if this is something in
Yes.
the plans. But I think the bureaucracy can be loosened a little bit to make the life easier. But as than that, I think especially in spring and summer, the weather is lovely when
It's
compared
lovely.
to UK mainly.
That's
So
true.
bureaucracy can be another challenge, and especially if you're coming from a country that welcomes lots of foreign investment and
Hmm.
things are doing easier. So you need to also, as an expat, get to know that things can be a little bit lagged or can take longer time than you are used to.
Yes, unfortunately, you are right. That's something what we are also aware. I mean, we check, and we also don't like it. So I fully agree, and I'm
And
happy that
also
you are
Prague
sharing
1,
this.
Prague 2, these are all confusing because you expect it to be close to each other, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that may, when I'm asking, for example, talking with someone saying I'm living in Prague 8, I'm thinking, where is it? But so it also takes a little bit time to understand how this, architecture of the city is, but you learn it
Yeah.
somehow.
Yeah, that's true. It's also confusing. I'm from Brno, so for me, actually, it's same confusing as for you. So we are on the same boat.
I can imagine. And Brno is one of the cities I think that has, like the university and some incentives for the technology companies. We have looked into that. I think that may be a good opportunity because not everything needs to be in the capital cities. So I think I hear a lot about Brno, and some I think companies may even have their operation centers there, maybe because of the incentives. So I think when you go to a country, you mainly look into the capital. That happens in Turkey, Istanbul as well. But I
Hmm.
think there are lots of hidden gems in Czech Republic. So personally, I could not yet discover. I haven't been to Karlovy Vary yet, or the other
Uh-huh. Yeah.
very beautiful places. But I think we should also start looking at the country as a whole and identify lots of additional advantages and opportunities in all over the country itself.
Yeah, it's true. The Brno is now quite IT, and also I can see it like it's really student city. So there is a lot of universities, and it's also a huge difference between summer break, and the standard academic year.
School
When
time, yeah.
yes, it's a huge difference. But that's true. You are right, and it would be great if there will be more companies coming to Brno also. Yeah, that's true. Okay.
Okay.
Nemika, thank you very much.
Thank you.
As I
It's
said
been a
already, I
pleasure.
really appreciate it. That was really great talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a lovely week.
You too.